My name is Tim Young. I've practiced law for 20 years in the New Orleans area. Over the years, we've been very fortunate and we've helped hundreds of maritime workers. The firm originally started with my father, and he practiced law in the New Orleans area. He came from Vero Beach, Florida. He went to Spring Hill College in Mobile, then moved over here to New Orleans, met my mother. They were married. My father's practice was interesting. He actually did defense work on behalf of insurance companies for about the first 20 years. And then he met some friends along the Gulf Coast who represented injured maritime workers, and they began to refer cases to him in the New Orleans area to handle. One of the most interesting things I noticed growing up with my father was that as he got into representing the injured maritime workers, he became a lot more passionate about those cases. It was no longer representing an insurance company that would send 10 or 15 files a year and simply pay his bills. It was actually helping an individual who had been hurt working on an oil rig or working on a vessel. When I started practicing with my father about 20 years ago, I did a little bit of defense work for a while, maybe 6 months. There's one story I remember in particular. We were defending a blood bank that had given tainted blood. Unfortunately, this was in the very early 90s, and there were still some tainted blood from the AIDS infection. A very, very nice lady had received the transfusion, and unfortunately, she became HIV positive because of it. And I had to go and take her deposition, and I remember asking her questions that are asked of anyone who has a blood transfusion and is eventually HIV positive. Typically questions are asked about, have you ever been out of the country? Certain countries have very high rates of HIV infection, so that's a question I asked to figure out if it came from the blood or from travel overseas. Well, I remember very distinctly asking this very nice lady on the other side of the table, do you ever travel out of the country? And she says, yes, I have at one point. And in representing the client that we had at the time, I'm thinking, okay, perhaps maybe she went to a high-risk area for HIV. Perhaps this would be another source of infection. And her answer was that she had been over to Lourdes overseas after she was diagnosed HIV, so she could go pray. And I realized at that point that it really was not the job I wanted to do, sitting on the other side of a table from someone who had been injured, trying to prove why we weren't going to help them or prove why they were not entitled to anything. If I was going to make a mistake on the side of the table, I'd rather be on the side of the injured worker, trying to get compensation for them, perhaps doing my job too well and getting them too much compensation, rather than being on the other side of the table and keeping from them something that they were entitled to. So that was a real teaching point for me when I came with the office. My father and I practiced together for about 15 years. And it was a wonderful 15 years. We really had a great relationship practicing together. It turned out well for the stage of life that he was going into. As I became a mid-level attorney and really got my feet under me and understood cases, we could work them together. He had a lot of seniority. He knew the bench, the judges very well, which obviously is nice when you go in. You have familiarity with all the judges. It was a very good 15 years or so that we practiced together. He taught me a lot. Over the last 5 to 10 years, he's transitioned out of the practice, and it's become my practice. We have 3 attorneys total here in New Orleans. I'll never forget his background and the way he changed as far as his attitude representing the individuals as opposed to the insurance companies. The last 10 or 15 years of our practice, we focused exclusively on maritime cases. For a while we were doing about 80 to 90% maritime cases, and we'd still accept automobile accidents or medical malpractice cases. And in the last year we've decided to only represent injured maritime workers. We feel doing this will benefit our clients a lot more. There's 5 days in the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Every single one of those days our office handles Jones Act maritime cases on behalf of injured workers. That's the work we want to do. That's the work that we feel we excel at. That's the best way that we can serve our clients. We understand our clients have a tough decision when they file a claim against their company. We like to explain to them that their case is not about the next 6 months or year. Their case is about the next 10 or 15 or 20 years. And they really need to sit down with their family. Sometimes they need to talk about it, maybe pray about it. They need to figure out where their future is going to be in 5 or 10 years. Is it going to be with the company if they're seriously hurt, if the company did something wrong? A lot of times our clients have had MRI tests done after an accident. They show that they have a bad back. And the reality is they can't stay offshore with that. The reality is even if their company keeps them employed, they'll never be able to go out and get a new job somewhere else because they now know that they have a bad back. And we understand this when we sit with them. We view our job in the case as trying to best take care of our clients. I was told a long time ago that if you take care of the client, the rest takes care of itself. And we really believe that at the office. We try to help our clients. They have a lot of different issues besides their case going on. A lot of times there are complicated legal issues about short-term, long-term disability, Medicare set-asides, federal law, which is what the Jones Act is. There's that whole legal aspect, but then there's what the client's really going through day to day. Their reality is their family. Their reality is their bills. Their reality is how are they going to pay for the kids' clothes next month if they do quit the job. We understand all that. We need to step out of our office, help them with that, and we also need to stay in our office and work their case from the legal side. I guess getting back to our office practice and practicing with my father and how his office transitioned from representing some insurance companies to injured maritime workers to now exclusively injured maritime workers. I guess getting back to that, it's really given us a good perspective of what people go through on the other side of the table when they're having to file a claim. We actually have sat on the insurance company side of it many, many years ago, and we understand that their perspective is in no way going to be to voluntarily help the injured person. That's just not their business. That's not what they do. They're in the business of taking in premiums, paying out as little as possible, and making money off of it. When you sit on the other side of the table with the injured worker, we understand that your perspective is very different. Your needs are very different. You have the family, you have your future you're worried about, you're filing a claim against your employer. Come in and talk to us. We can discuss all these issues. We really do enjoy what we do. We really do feel for a lot of our clients. We understand you guys are in tough position with the decisions you have to make. Most of all, get educated about your options. Sometimes it helps to sit down with the good attorneys, write everything out on paper, kind of draw diagrams and say this is where you are, this is maybe where you can get to, and you have to decide what you're going to do at that point. The best way to do it is to sit down, meet with a good attorney. You're welcome to come to our office, give us a call, we can speak with you about it. Hopefully you understand after watching this video that we really enjoy what we do. It's our passion, and we want to be able to help you if you'd like us to.